Welcome back. You're watching live from Paris on France 24. The headlines this hour. Israel carries out airstrikes on Gaza after a rocket destroyed a home north of Tel Aviv. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu leaves Washington early after meeting with President Trump, who has now recognised Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. The British Prime Minister Theresa May admits she still does not have the votes to get her withdrawal agreement through Parliament. MPs are expected to hold indicative votes later tonight. And pomp and ceremony for China's president as he visits Emmanuel Macron in Paris, a state dinner of lobster and foie gras and billions of euros worth of trade deals on the menu. First, Israel has begun airstrikes on Hamas targets inside Gaza. This hours after a rocket that was fired from the Palestinian territory fell on a house north of Tel Aviv, injuring 7 people. Hamas has denied responsibility for the rocket attack, but Israel's Prime Minister has promised a firm response.
Israel is responding forcefully to this wanton aggression. I have a simple message to Israel's enemies. We will do whatever we must do to defend our people and defend our state.
And Benjamin Netanyahu cut short his trip to the United States, where he's been meeting with President Trump just 2 weeks before Israel holds elections. Trump officially recognised Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, the territory Israel captured from Syria in 1967.
Today, aggressive action by Iran and terrorist groups in southern Syria, including Hezbollah, continue to make the Golan Heights a potential launching ground for attacks against Israel, very violent attacks. Any possible future peace agreement must account for Israel's need to defend itself from Syria, Iran, and other regional threats. We do not want to see another attack like the one suffered this morning north of Tel Aviv.
Well, Syria has already contested that move by the US, calling it a violation of its sovereignty. Well, Sami Sokol is in Jerusalem with more on Israel's response to that rocket attack.
I can tell you that the reports coming from Hamas is that at 10 o'clock local time, a ceasefire was supposed to come into place. And this is a ceasefire that they say was brokered by the Egyptians. And we know that there's an Egyptian delegation in the country right now in Israel, and they've been trying to create this ceasefire. Now, on the Israeli side, there's no confirmation that there's actually a ceasefire going on. And what we've now heard from the Gaza Strip is that after this ceasefire deadline, there have been airstrikes in the Gaza Strip. So Hamas would very much like to end this round. We know that there was this rocket that was launched from the Gaza Strip, hit a house, destroyed it in the north of Tel Aviv. Since then, Israel has been striking the Gaza Strip, and the Palestinian factions have been launching rockets towards the south of Israel. And this is a point that they would like to have a ceasefire. And we know also the United Nations have been trying to negotiate a ceasefire. Now, Israeli observers, they say that a ceasefire for Netanyahu now would not be good enough, because he has to show the Israeli public that he's striking Hamas. He is now, in this afternoon, they have destroyed the offices of Ismail Haniyeh, who is the head of the Hamas political bureau. There's another building in Hamas, a 3-story building that was destroyed in airstrikes. Israel says that it's head of the intelligence. Palestinians are saying that it's a commercial building. We really don't know what was in this building, whether it was for commercial or whether there was intelligence there. And there were other locations that have been struck. And as we're speaking now, Israel is continuing to strike and to retaliate. In Israel, they're saying that they want to restore the deterrence of Israel and its military.
Sammy Sokol there. Well, meanwhile, President Trump has accused unnamed people of evil and treason a day after he was cleared of collusion with Russia. Trump's Attorney General said that Special Counsel Robert Mueller had found no evidence the Trump campaign colluded with Russia. However, he did stop short of exonerating the president over an alleged obstruction of justice. And there are now calls for that report to be released in full. Claire Rush reports.
Total vindication, complete exoneration. Terms used by members of U.S. President Donald Trump's administration on Monday as they celebrated the findings of Special Counsel Robert Mueller, who concluded after nearly 2 years of investigating that Trump's campaign did not collude with Russia in the 2016 presidential election.
Make no mistake about it, my fellow Americans, this was a total vindication of the President of the United States and our campaign.
The White House press secretary had a similar reaction.
They were incredibly clear in the report that there was no collusion, not by the president, but by any American, no one on his team. That's a great thing for our country, and it's a great thing for this administration.
Mueller found no evidence that Trump or his campaign conspired with Russia to influence the election in his favor. But he stopped short of exonerating the president of obstruction of justice. This, according to a 4-page summary of the report, written by Attorney General William Barr, released on Sunday. But some congressional Democrats have criticized Barr's summary, calling for the full report to be made public.
The entire unfiltered report, as well as the evidence underlying that report, must be made available to Congress and to the American people. We will ask the Attorney General to testify before the House Judiciary Committee. We will demand the release of the full report.
The findings have lifted the dark cloud that's hung over the Trump administration for nearly 2 years and may boost the president as he seeks re-election in 2020.
In the UK, Theresa May's Brexit plan has hit another roadblock. She admits she doesn't have the votes to get her withdrawal agreement through Parliament. Lawmakers are expected to hold indicative votes on alternatives to May's plan later tonight. The government, though, would have no legal obligation to abide by the results. Yenna Lee has more.
With just 4 days left until the original scheduled Brexit day, Prime Minister Theresa May has yet to convince MPs to vote for her deal.
But it is with great regret that I have had to conclude that as things stand, there is still not sufficient support in the House to bring back the deal for a third meaningful vote.
The UK was supposed to leave the European Union on March 29th, but as MPs hadn't approved her deal, May asked Brussels to push back the divorce date. The bloc granted an extension until May 22nd, but only if MPs approve the withdrawal agreement. If there's still no majority in the House, the new Brexit day will be April 12th, with or without a deal.
Mr. Speaker, the government's approach to Brexit has now become a national embarrassment. We now have an extension until mid-April or May the 22nd. And despite the clearly expressed will of this House, we will still face the prospect of a disastrous no-deal Brexit.
Opposition leader Jeremy Corbyn says he supports lawmaker Oliver Letwin's attempt to give Parliament more of a say on the Brexit process. For the Prime Minister, it's an unwelcome precedent that changes the functioning of the UK's democratic process. Theresa May has preferred going about it the traditional way, working behind the scenes to muster support for her deal. She held emergency meetings with her cabinet Monday and with rebel Conservative MPs at her country residence on Sunday. Though May hasn't won over hardline Brexiteers, she has so far managed to keep her position as leader of the Conservative Party.
A lavish state dinner for China's president in Paris now. Xi Jinping and Emmanuel Macron signed off on trade deals worth billions this afternoon, including deals for the European plane maker Airbus. Macron, though, has pushed back against Beijing's Belt and Road infrastructure plan after Xi's previous stop in Italy, which has signed up to the project. Charlie James has more.
Paris rolls out the red carpet for the Chinese president. France's Emmanuel Macron treated Xi Jinping to a military honor guard at the Arc de Triomphe War Monument. The leaders then held talks at the Élysée Palace and ended the evening with a state dinner. But the goal for Xi is to expand his new Silk Road-style trade network into Europe. The French president agrees there should be cooperation.
The obvious and reasonable choice, I'm convinced, is in a strong Euro-Chinese partnership. This requires Europe to be united and to have a coherent strategy. That is what we're doing in terms of strategic investment and critical infrastructure. We are giving ourselves the means of sovereignty, as China has always done.
The visit poses a particular challenge for Macron, who wants to strengthen EU ties with China while also pushing back against Beijing's growing influence. Sunday, Xi arrived in the French Riviera from Italy. The Italian government was the first G7 state to sign on to the Belt and Road Initiative. France has expressed concern about embracing Chinese investments, but the nations did sign a series of deals on nuclear power, aerospace, energy, and more. The leaders will continue talks on Tuesday, joined by German Chancellor Angela Merkel and European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker. Macron says the group will seek points of convergence between Europe and China.
The brother of the 2012 Toulouse killer is on trial again. Prosecutors accuse him of complicity in the killing spree that left 7 people dead, including 3 children at a Jewish school in Toulouse. Abdelkader Merah, the elder brother of Mohamed Merah, is already serving a 20-year sentence after he was found guilty of taking part in a terrorist conspiracy. Claire Pacquelin has more.
This was the first day in the appeals trial of Abdelkader Merah. Now, the reason this is happening is the public prosecution as well as his defense lawyer are both appealing the verdict that was handed down in November 2017. Now, he was found guilty back then of having links to a terrorist group, but he was not found guilty of having aided and abetted his younger brother, Mohamed Merah, to carry out those attacks in and around the Toulouse region 7 years ago now. Family members of some of the victims are here today, and they are hoping that this appeals trial will be a little bit more calm and less emotionally charged than the first trial that took place in 2017. Samuel Sandler, who lost his son and 2 grandsons when they were killed by Mohamed Merah outside the Jewish school in Toulouse, said that he felt very anxious about the next few days, but he felt he had to be here. Otherwise, he would be abandoning and betraying his children who were killed by Mohamed Merah.
In Thailand, there's confusion over the outcome of the first election since the military coup 5 years ago. Election officials have delayed announcing the official results. And there are conflicting reports over whether the pro-military party or its main rival has won the most votes. Daniel Quinlan has more from Bangkok.
Today on Twitter, you saw the 4 trending hashtags, which all alluded to fraud in the election. You also saw an online petition for the Election Commission to basically be dismissed, and that got 400,000 extra signatures by the end of it today. It's up over 500,000 signatures. You also saw that Thaksin Shinawatra, the former Prime Minister, penned an op-ed in the New York Times basically saying the election was rigged. That's probably not a surprise, but it does seem that a lot of people are not happy with the results, and that this election really has been tainted in the eyes of many. And it was an electoral process that already seemed to favour the junta in many ways, including, as your report mentioned, the upper house being appointed by them.